Aloha! I'm Tara, the metabolic therapist. Welcome, Cyber Ohana, to your Trust Your Guts Club. We meet here on Tune In Tuesdays to talk about all things gut health, digestive support, and more. I'm working on getting my lights turned on here. And I want to wait a few minutes for those of us that are gathering. And how it works is that you join and, type in some questions you might have, maybe some recipes you'd like to talk about, or ask me anything. I'm happy to clarify and share my wisdom with you. I'm helping people in health and wellness since 2006. And I have a passion for gut health, specifically this colon. I'm going to sit here. Earlier we were doing chair yoga here too. So basically this colon is 5 feet. I love to share this one too. So this is our entire digestive system. I imagine most of us are familiar with all of the systems of the body, from our nervous system, our immune system, our circulatory system, respiratory system, lymphatic system, and this is our digestive system. Now, this is how it is all stretched out, but you probably remember studying back in school. This is the liver, the stomach. Here's the colon, which is the large intestine, and then here's the small intestine, and it's all bound up there. Now here, it's all spread out, and so oftentimes we love to talk about what are some of the things that can be offensive to our digestive tract, and that can cause some problems with our digestion, whether we're burping or have bad gas or have heartburn. Some people may have indigestion while digesting, and I have like cramping and pains. And this is the body communicating to you that something's off. So rather than just putting antacids and medications that just kind of like suppress our immune response. What I love to do is let's get to the bottom of it and see what we can do to alleviate your beautiful body from strain and stress. So today, I'd love to talk about all things elimination protocols and why this is important to me. It's maybe you know me, maybe we're new friends. Maybe you're getting to know me here through Live Yoga channel and my offerings through the metabolic therapist. I am on Oahu. I live in Honolulu, and I help people with one-on-one coaching programs. Now, in my past, I have run a detox retreat center, and I feel kind of funny saying this, but I was very strict in I call it my right-wing vegan ways. I believed that vegetarianism was a morally appropriate response to the food industry, as it was best for spiritually as well as our climate. And I believed that a vegetarian diet was what everybody needed to be doing. Now, what I learned from that, because after 17 long years of being a strict vegan, I was even a raw vegan for like 8 years. I was really strict vegetarian, all the different, titles I could have, I wore. But then some things started happening. I wasn't getting certain fats and nutrients for my brain. I was a stressed out professional, working way too hard, carrying too much responsibility. There was a not so great relationship in process as well. So there was toxic relating. There's stress from, you know, career and interpersonal relating, plus a diet that wasn't giving me all that I needed in terms of nourishment. And what happened was in 2015, I woke up and was told that I'd had a seizure in my sleep. Oh my goodness, I've never had a seizure. Nobody in my family's had seizures. I had no idea where it came from. And it didn't happen again for another 8 months. But when it happened, it was again around like a really stressful time. So yeah. So yeah, thank you. Go ahead and, you know, write your notes in the chat here. I'm happy to you know, connect and answer your questions and keep this going here. But yeah, so I started having seizures, and it was really scary. And at the time, you know, lots of my friends, even in the like raw vegan world, were like, Tara, you need to eat a piece of steak. And it was I had become so political, if you will, in my beliefs, that it was really hard. However, where I was living at the time, I was on East Hawaii, and I had accessibility to, I remember I started drinking bone broth. Now, it wasn't something that I made. It was really scary for me to imagine, you know, preparing animal carcasses at that time. But what I did do was I was able to work with a local woman that helped people with digestive healing as well. And she was making bone broth, and it was from cattle that was like, she could talk, you know, talk to the farmer about what they fed the cattle, how the cattle was treated. And so this was really important to me. Yes, there definitely was all sorts of like anemia, as well as I wasn't getting, you know, the kinds of fats that I was needing to support my nervous system. So I started drinking bone broth, and I'll forever remember that experience. I remember when I was drinking the bone broth, and I was like, wow, it just felt so soothing. And I would sit down, I would eat a lot. You know, I was a vegan that would eat big salads, and I was eating a lot to try and get my caloric needs. But I remember when I was drinking that bone broth, and I just felt so nourished. Like it was like a deep belly nourishment that I had to admit, like, wow, no amount of kale salad has ever satiated me in such a way. So I worked real hard to make peace with the food chain, and I began to incorporate animal nourishment into my body again. Now, lo and behold, like this has become quite a trend, even in the vegetarian community. Many, I would say most of the folks that I used to run around with have reincorporated animal foods back into their diets for supportive nourishment. And I help people transition from where I was to where I am now. And what had happened because of the seizures, you know, they wanted to put me on, what are they called? AEDs, anti-epileptic drugs. Now, what happens is these drugs work like 30% of the time. This is like what the stats were. And then oftentimes they've got to like play with various medications and such. And this was really far out for me. I didn't want to do it. And my neurologist, he says, well, you know, there's this diet that's grown quite popular, but it's hard to stick to. And I was like, doctor, I don't think you know me very well, but give it to me. And he said, you know, it's actually quite popular these days. It's the ketogenic diet. And it was developed back in the early 1920s specifically for epilepsy. So when there were seizures in the brain, when the body was switched from running on glucose to running on ketone bodies, that it actually soothes the brain and most organs. And what doctors are finding, and I'm so happy to be on the teams, is that people can change their chronic inflammation, their chronic conditions, by absolutely changing out their consumption habits. So what we eat very much indicates how our body responds and how we feel, how we sleep, what we crave, and more. So I have recommitted my life, my passions, my services to help folks on a one-on-one basis to re-clarify the day-to-day habits so that we are serving our best selves. And the truth is, we've all grown up with a unique history based on the medications we've taken, based on where we grew up, how much sunshine we get, what kind of food quality is, what kind of foods and ingredients we've been putting in our body, what kind of stress, what kind of sleep, all of the things creates a unique organism. And I've learned a thing or two, not only through my own health care and habits, but I've gone to school for this. Back before living on Oahu, I ran a colon hydrotherapy center where I would help folks with cleansing programs. We would do liver flushes and colon cleanses. And although I still love to share that with people, I teach people now how to do that more on like a one-on-one basis, like how to do it in your home. It's the cheapest and easiest way to do it. So I'm happy to help with that. And then what is some of my favorite to do is to help people identify their ailments along the digestive tract. Some folks have more like upper digestive system issues. A dear friend of mine has real bad burping and heartburn. And, by paying attention to what's, on the TV, you'd think that like Gas-X and Tums actually helps that. And it makes it worse. It takes away from the important acids. Our stomach is meant to be acidic. And so we need high acids in our stomach. And then in addition, some folks have more like, smelly gas or lots of bloating, or over the last few years or recently, if you notice you're starting to carry weight right here around the low belly, this is indicative of a fatty liver. And many folks are running around with fat on the outside of their organs, and this very much impacts our hormones, how we sleep, our mood, our cycles, and so much. So simply by removing some of the offensive foods that cause us to carry weight right here, and let me tell you right away, I can tell you there's no secret about it, get rid of the processed foods and grains. And I hear that, I can't even imagine getting bread out of my life. Take bread out of your life for a week and see what happens. And there definitely will be grief. There definitely can be some grief from letting go of some of these foods that have been emotionally supportive for us. But there's something to be said about when they're completely out of our our system, and that can take several weeks for our body to finally rid the cravings. And then also I would say watch the oils. What kind of oils are you cooking your food in? Are you adding to your salad dressings? What kind of oils? And especially when we eat out, because eating out, unfortunately, people are using more and more what are they called? Rancid oils. So the term in the health food scene is PUFA oils. And these are like polyunsaturated fat. But the oils, canola, soy, soybean, what are some other, oils that cause issues when, especially when put in foods, and what happens is they're heated, and then when they're heated, right, you're right, Melissa, so much soybean oil is in so many things, so you just eliminate those foods. Like, just take a look at the ingredients list, and when it starts with soybean oil or canola oil, just don't buy it. There's other things we can eat. There are whole foods, and what oil I suggest you swapping out is avocado oil. So avocado oil is great to cook with. It's available at most stores these days. I also love to cook with ghee, which is a clarified butter, as well as Kerrygold butter. So those are some of my favorite go-tos. And then coconut oil too. However, let's note that not all coconut oil is considered the same. Not all are considered equal. Some of them have been stored in big drums that get heated. And then again, like when these oils are heated, their composition changes. And then so how it responds to our alchemical process changes too. So then when we're consuming rancid oils, what that does inside of us is it creates free radicals, and free radical damage gives a lot of stress to this hardworking liver, which is over here, just underneath of that right rib cage, and it makes it hard to detox, and the body is designed so perfectly. We're designed to be able to take on stressors and move through them. However, lifestyle today, which is, very quick, and eat, hurry, eat on the run, do things, multitask. This impacts how we digest food, and then how our body even takes in what we're giving it as nourishment, and places it, whether we can utilize it as nourishment, or if it's just more stagnant energy that then just gets stuck and backed up in our guts, waiting for the release to come. So, yes, I hear you. Bread and cheese can be, can be very satisfying, and there's other ways that we can nourish our body. So one, like, go ahead, what I would suggest is keep utilizing the cheese, but then notice, because many of us can digest cheese, but a little bit of it, and so that's what people say, like, oh, get to know your moderate, forgive me, I kind of forgot what I was saying there. So when you're moderating you can have cheese, but try not to have too much, and you'll be able to tell, like, when you start having like slower bowel movements, things start taking longer to digest and move through. And so one way to deal with cravings, this question's coming up on the chat, is to give yourself something different. So oftentimes when we're craving something, our body's needing minerals. So first things first, go get some water, have a drink, have a drink of water with some good electrolytes in it. Like most of us are running around dehydrated to some degree or not. So having some water is going to be helpful, as well as giving yourself something nourishing that's like dense in nutrition. So eat something that's higher in fat or higher in protein. And this, what I can understand is like sometimes like even too when I first went keto is quite a spectrum. And I've heard people say, oh, I tried keto, it didn't work for me. And there's so much variety in keto. It's really important that you try different things to see what could work best for you. It's quite a powerful lifestyle that clarifies and removes lots of tension and soreness. So how to deal with the cravings is give yourself something truly nourishing. So when I'm craving something sweet, I'll sit down and have a nice meal, but have that meal be, rich with great vegetables, a good fat, as well as a protein source. So what does that protein source look like for me? It's going to be grass-fed, grass-finished cattle. I'm still super choosy about where I get my food, how it was treated. Sourcing is so very, very important to me. And I continue sharing that with my clients as well. It's really important. And if you haven't seen the movie yet, Kiss the Ground, Woody Harrelson is the narrator in it. And he just does an amazing job of empowering all of us to learn and know that we can get on board with supporting regenerative agriculture, and how regenerative agriculture is absolutely going to improve our climate conditions. And we really need some climate cooling. And within the next 5 years, we have accessibility to do it. So watch the movie. It's on Netflix. All right. So I've got one more question here. Lactose intolerant, and my condition makes me subject to fractures easily. So I'm trying to eat cottage cheese for calcium, and I got a supplement. Okay, calcium supplements. Understood. Yes, calcium is really important for our bone health and all of the processes in our body. So yes, calcium. However, not all calcium supplements are considered the same. I'm a big fan of, and especially since I've reintroduced animal nourishment back into my body, I love to consider what they call, it's called nose to tail. So not just using the like lean muscle meat for eating, but also using the fat and all of the connective tissues, because that's where we get a lot of great cartilage and building blocks for our body as well. So if you do know that you're lactose intolerant, then there's, it's called Ancestral Supplements. They sell it's called bone marrow, and it's a calcium supplement, and it's from bones. So I take that, as well as I drink bone broth. And so when I make my bone broth, I make it in the Instapot. But when I make it, I also, I love to soak it with some apple cider vinegar, because that helps to draw out all of those calcium, vitamins and minerals to then that gets passed on through the soup. So that's my big tip for today, is to eliminate some of these offensive foods. Just cut it out. Like, just cut them out. Cut out the grains and cut out the rancid oils. Let me know how that works for you. Simply taking out some of the most offensive foods. And if it seems overwhelming to do it all in one swoop, okay, fine. Then just take out bread for a week, or take out soybean oil. Choose one and eliminate it and see what happens. Now, one last story before I go is I continue to do this as I make adjustments, because like I was saying earlier, keto is quite a spectrum. And even how I started keto back in 2015, it's very different what I'm doing these days. And it requires some adjustments and fine tuning and regrouping and adjusting. So that's, I love to share that with folks because there's no like one size fits all. You got to try different things and see what's sustainable and realistic for you. Because if it's not realistic, we're not going to do it, and then we're not going to have success. So one thing that I took out this year were almonds. And as a long-term health practitioner, you know, almond butter, almond, you know, soaked almonds, almond milk, almond flour, almond became this alternate ingredient that I was using a lot of. And I didn't realize, but I was suspect that the puffiness in my eyes after I would make some almond pudding, some like chocolate almond chia pudding, or with various things, you know, yeah, I let go of almonds this year. Not only did I lose like 5 pounds, but I was able, like, and I saw it move from like my hip area, but I was able, like when I stretch and when I'm moving, like I have more range of motion, and that lets me know that I was holding on to inflammation, and I was eating it like almost daily. There was some sort of like almond experience, and now that it's completely out of my life, I got to tell you, it wasn't easy. There was like some emotional grief. It took several weeks, and I found myself like, you know, like we were talking earlier, just a little bit of craving. And I was like, oh, shoot, how do I get over this? How do I get over this? I did. I muscled through it. I gave myself something different. And I'm so happy to be on the other side. I don't crave almonds. I don't think about them. And so there's something to be said, like eliminating certain foods can be hard at first, and that's where having a buddy is really helpful. Having somebody to bounce these ideas off of is super helpful, and we can find wins for you to replace so that you can get through that first what did you say, those first few laps, so you can get beyond it, because there's something to be said about the freedom when we're not thinking about a food, when we're not trying to figure out ways to get it in. Whew, it's amazing. So, all right, beautiful little Hannah. Are there any other questions for today? I would love to answer any questions you might have. Anything, I want to remind all of us to drink some water. Make sure we're getting ample water, and not too much water. If you've been like me, I've definitely have been somebody that has drank too much water, and then that can dilute my minerals as well. So trying to find that like Goldilocks of at least 8 glasses of water a day. But I check in there to see like if I'm thirsty. That natural thirst sensation is a helpful tool. Like we really want to know, like, what is the difference between a craving, between thirst, like really wanting something and needing something, versus like an emotional draw. Okay, so that's what I want to leave you with today. Please join us again next week. We'll be here, same channel, and happy to answer your questions. Let me know what's worked for you. Try some bone broth this week for calcium, as well as just ease and digestion. If there's one thing you take away from today, is add some bone broth into your diet. Lots of aloha. You take care.